Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second official Sportsvival podcast, live from the Sportsvival Castle on an undisclosed mountaintop 90 feet under the ground in the fallout shelter he calls his man cave. We have the king of Sportsvival land, JT himself, the great Jimmy V, and the number one podcaster in sports entertainment, Stevie Steele. And boy, do we have a lineup for you today, including the week in Pittsburgh sports. We have quite a few things to talk about there, including the Penguins, Pirates, and the Steelers. But first, let's talk about our number one sponsor, Level 20. If you're going out for a good time, this is the place you want to go. Located at 1033 Paxton Drive, Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, right outside of South Park. Saturday night karaoke with JR, and Friday night Name That Tune with DJ
Joe.
DJ Joe. You have the worst writing I've ever seen, JT. I don't even know how you got out of third grade with this kind of writing. But you definitely want to go out there and show them some love. Again, that's Level 20 at 1033 Paxton Drive. Great selection of beer, great times, and I understand a really good time at that karaoke.
Oh, yeah.
If you're lucky, you might.
A lot of local ladies. I'm not going to mention names on the podcast, but good times last night.
And if you're lucky, you might get to see JT himself out there cutting up a few tunes.
Yeah, sometimes. And PJ, this guy I know, PJ Steele, he does a couple raps.
We can't keep my fake name right for more than 10 seconds. I was going to take an over-under on this, how long it was going to be until you let the cat out of the bag that I've been changing my name every damn week on these podcasts. But we're going to talk about all that stuff and more coming up in just a few seconds. All right, we are back. And we're going to go right with the biggest news story of the week, in my opinion, here in Pittsburgh. News out of the Steelers organization that the great Heath Miller, tight end for the Pittsburgh Steelers, has called it quits. He's retiring after many successful years in the league, probably one of the most reliable tight ends in the league, most great hands, great blocker. I mean,
he was the best Steelers tight end in history. That's probably not even a debatable thing.
He's sixth in the NFL history.
Yeah, that's amazing. He's such a quiet professional. He's a professional class. He's a class act. If you think about Steeler tight ends, besides like Mark Bruner and the Eric Greens and the Benny Cunninghams, I mean, he was the guy. He was the man here. And how many? What's the over under on the first tight end that catches a pass next year? How many drunks scream Heath?
You're talking in the stadium?
About half the crowd. You think?
So let's see. It's 65,000 capacity. So I'm going to go 35,000.
So when Jesse James makes that first catch, he's going to hear Heath. He might as well change his number to 83 and just go with it.
Just go James.
It's not going to be the same without Heath. Heath was from Virginia. I think it was 11 years he played in the NFL. He was as good as they come. That's going to be another hole the Steelers got to try to fill in the offseason, whether they promote Jesse James or go out and try to find a free agent.
Let's take a different angle on it. We all know Polamalu leaving. Kind of went one way. He didn't even come back for Super Bowl 40 celebration. Is there some shenanigans going on? Was he asked to leave?
Nah, I don't think so. He still had a great. He still was productive last year. I think
that's what I'm getting at.
Plus, he was Ben's security blanket. That's the part I think the Steelers are going to miss the most.
I'm getting at that too. I'm wondering what his salary cap hit was. Did they kind of tell him, "Hey,
yeah, we got $4 million. We got saved on that."
So, I'm asking. Think he was forced to retire?
I don't think.
It's too sudden.
I think he had. Honestly, I think it's going to come out that he had some head problems. I think he took some bad hits up high. A lot of times he would get destroyed by linebackers and safeties over the middle, and I don't know how he got up half the time.
This is a roundtable discussion, I guess. We can go around and just ask this question, everybody. I was listening to KDKA earlier today, and please forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Rob Rossi. Was discussing this situation with the Heath Miller retirement. And the question came up, are we at the point in the NFL with everybody knows what's going on with concussions? Okay, it's no secret what's going on there. Are we at the point where we're going to see players retiring much earlier than what they would have in the past, knowing what could be coming down the line for them?
Oh, there's no doubt. Look at Jared Mayo this past week just retired at age 29. He's a linebacker for the Patriots. He retired at 29. Last year, you had a couple of them 49ers that retired early. There's a linebacker. I can't remember his name offhand. He's from Stanford. Good linebacker, too. He's only in his second or third year. He left. I think the guys know it now. It's like we talked last week about Roethlisberger. I think once a guy gets hurt, they ain't gonna stick around like they used to.
I'm the other way. I think you're going to get a little phase where they do, but then for the most part, they'll be back. It's all about money. And
But you make $20 million your first 4 or 5 years. Why stick around? Like Marshawn Lynch, to me, is a smart man. He got beat up, did his thing. He left. He left while he could still.
I think there's going to be a bunch of players that are like that, but there's going to be 90% of the players that don't make that kind of money are still going to put their time in and make their money, whatever it takes. The alternative is not. It's like a thing I seen with. Remember Randall L. He had a thing in there. He goes, "Boy, if I had it all over to do again, I would never have played football.
I would have played baseball." He said.
But you know what I say to that? There's another guy that did quit football that goes, "Man, if I had it all over to do again, I would have played football and went to college. I would have went NFL. I could have been this. I could have been that." It's easy to say, I should have never played football, but now I'm going to go home and sit down on my $20 million and live a happy life. It's easy to do that part.
I think you're right to a point, Jimmy, but I think the way,
right all the
even
way.
like the movie Concussion, all these movies that are coming out, and you see the guys now, they can't. Tony Dorsett got interviewed. He's having trouble.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
There's some problems with these guys, and these younger guys are seeing it now, and they're making a hell of a lot more money than Tony Dorsett and them did back in the day.
But that's a different NFL. So I think things are a little different. I think even on the youth level, stuff changes. Your tackling techniques have changed from back in the days we were talking earlier, where you used to, bury the helmet into the numbers. You don't do that anymore. It's not how kids are taught. That's not how. And as they go through there, I think you're going to see concussions go down every single year
until they get to the NFL.
I know it went up this year in the NFL.
The guys in the NFL do not care about technique. They just want to kill the guy. Honestly, they dive at them. Polamalu was one of my favorite safeties. He could not tackle right. He just torpedoed himself at people.
There's always
and he
going to be
paid
some
the price.
of that. Yeah, there's definitely always going to be some of that, but there's also going to be a lot of where techniques are changing and it's getting beat into, so to speak, into kids' heads and high school players' heads. I just don't think. I think it's going to start to get phased out. I don't see a lot in college, like the NFL. It's just I don't know. I just don't. I think it's going to phase out through time a little bit, and it's not going to be that big of an issue as it is right now.
I hope you're right, but I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. I just think even there's a couple ex-NFLers that actually made the statement that they don't see the game even being around in 25 years, which was a couple quotes I've heard, and that makes you wonder.
There's too much money. It'll be there. It'll always be there. Gamblers make too much money. Owners make too much money. NFL players make too much money. It'll always be there.
Following up on that statement that Jimmy just made, this was the way that they explained it this morning on KDKA. They said Heath Miller is a gambler who's been sitting at the table and coming out ahead, and sooner or later he's going to lose his. You're going to lose your stack, and he's one of the wise people that decided to get up and walk away while he was way ahead, and that's the way they put it. He's relatively unscathed, they said, and his decision was strictly didn't have anything to do with salary cap.
He has had a bunch of concussions though, and he takes a lot of shots to the head. He's one of them guys that just would catch him high passes over the middle.
Whenever you're running across the middle, that's what happens.
He never dropped the ball. I mean, he was a great. Like I said, he was Ben's security blanket, and that's gonna be the one thing that the Steelers got to figure out. Le'Veon Bell might be catching 100 passes this year.
Yeah, well, coming out of the backfield, I mean, he's a good weapon, and they are going to have a hard time filling Heath Miller's role there, so we'll see what happens.
Another big story this week in Pittsburgh sports, the Pittsburgh Pirates got rid of their mustard Sunday uniforms, which I actually liked them a lot. Thought they looked pretty good on Sunday afternoons, but they're going to the We Are Family jerseys with the pillbox hats with the stripes. I think the jersey's sharp, but the hats, I'm like a little suspect on that. What do you guys think about them?
Those hats are terrible. You're talking about the stripes all the way around, correct?
Yeah, the pillbox.
Oh, those are the worst. I never knew that's what they were called. I always called them the T-Cats because I just, as a kid, I just remember Kent TeCooley with that ugly hat on. Oh, those hats are terrible. And I also remember the guitarist, I think it was from Suicidal Tendencies, used to wear that hat back in the 90s. They're a little bit of thrash band stuff.
It's amazing over time how many artists have worn Pittsburgh hats.
Yeah,
I mean, we see it even locally now, and like Wiz Khalifa, of course, is from Pittsburgh, but you see the P a lot on hats. But I'm not sure. I don't think it makes a big deal, but I like the old jerseys a little bit better with the mustard yellow. And speaking of the Pirates, Garrett Cole this week didn't get sent home. Jonathan Neese got sent home to get work on his arm. See how he has sore arm, which is the guy we traded for Neil Walker. We traded Neil Walker to get him. And then Garrett Cole already has rib injury. He's like a soreness in his ribs. So Pirates, it's only been 2 or 3 days in training camp, spring training, but they're already hitting some bruises already. So that was another story that came out this week. And the other news is the Pitt Panthers this week. They won one. They got crushed by North Carolina, but then they came back and beat Wake Forest in double overtime, and then they beat Syracuse. So Pitt still looks like they have a chance at the tournament. They're only going to be like probably an 8 through 11 seed, maybe even lower than that, but they helped themselves out this week. The Penguins these last 2 days just lost to Tampa Bay. I was at that game. Looked terrible, but then they came back today and beat Buffalo. So.
And you're missing too. James Conner returns to practice.
Yeah, that was a big story. That kid's gonna be. If I had to put if I was a betting man next year for Heisman, I wouldn't put it against him. Honestly, Pitt used him really the right way going into last year, and then he got hurt right away last year. But he's the kind of guy that he could get you 1,700 yards, score a bunch of touchdowns, and he's coming back from this Hodgkins, and he's already practicing, which is. It's good to see for that kid.
I was a little backing up a little. I was a little disappointed with the Pirates uniform selection. I was hoping for the mid '80s drug trial uniform throwback. I thought that would have been friggin' awesome.
I think they're still they're still using them in the cops still have them in what you would call it what's that called? Del Barra has he's probably still has cocaine tracks on them things. Sorry, Dill, if you're listening.
The Pittsburgh 7, right? That's what they were, the Pittsburgh 7?
Yeah, they had Dave Parker on. They had some rough years in the 80s, man. I mean, you can look back at some of the old players. They had name the name, and people in the room will start laughing. You just can't believe he played. Amos Otis, Johnny LeMasters. I mean, we had some guys that Sammy Khalifa was the number 1 pick. Just some names that were just so horrible in the 80s. That's when the Pirates were just beyond belief terrible. And then they went to the 90s, got better, and then went to the 2000s, it got horrible, and it's like an up and down rodeo with them guys. They're back and looking pretty good, but I think this year might be the start of the downfall. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But any other news this week for Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh news?
You said Sammy Khalifa. Is he related to Wiz Khalifa?
Nah, Sammy Khalifa's the number 1 draft pick shortstop, and he never
what year was that?
You're hitting me now. I'm going to say 84.
It's kind of fitting.
82,
that's right
84.
in the middle of that's right in the middle of the drug issues, and then you have the last name Khalifa. You have Wiz Khalifa running around smoking weed every time he basically every breath he takes has weed in it, and allegedly. Let me state that again. That's allegedly. I have absolutely no proof.
We already got Dill Barra and Wiz Khalifa and all taking us to court over issues.
They're gonna take the Sportsvival castle.
Yeah, they're gonna take my man cave and my podcast away. That's my 2 favorite things.
Khalifa-vival. We can't have that. So.
But all right, we'll be back up. What's the next thing on the list there, Peach?
I don't even know. What else do we have going on here? We have the future drafts, but do we have anything else to cover today?
That's gonna be. We're gonna be talking about the Penguins and the Pirates coming up. We're gonna talk about We're going to talk about the Penguins, the trade deadline coming up. We're going to talk about what they can do, what they can't do. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Pirates, the spring training. And then we're going to talk about the future podcast, which we're real happy with the future podcast we got coming up. We got some big guests, local guests coming up. So stick around. We'll be right back.
And we are back here on the Sportsvival podcast. We're going to go with something new here. We're going to give Jimmy V 60 seconds to complain about something that has grinded his gears over the last week. We're going to call it the 60-second gripe session live with Jimmy V, and he is going to talk about the NBA All-Star Game, and we are ready in 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, first off, wrestling is still fake. That's for you. Second, Pearl Jam is in it for the money. So is Eddie Vedder. They're both in it for the money. Everybody's in it for the money. On the All-Star Games, is it time to be done with All-Star Games? For real. Might make the argument that the baseball one's meaningful only because of the winner gets home field or first 2 games at home. But come on, NFL joke. Am I right? NHL, look what they did. He pulled a guy that was in the minor leagues, and he wins the MVP. Really? What? Why do we have to watch that? And then NBA, I think the NBA All-Star Game should be taped and given to kids, youth sports everywhere to watch and learn and go, that's not how you do it, kid. Let's keep going, right? And then come on over
You
to
got
JT.
5, 4,
JT, bad,
3,
bad,
2,
NBA, awful.
1. Take the man's
Awful.
microphone.
No,
That was
I'm
a
not
60
done yet.
second.
I'm
No, he's
not
done.
done.
He's done. Shut him up.
I agree with a lot of what Jimmy was saying. The NBA game was like 195 to 187, which he was right. There was no defense. And I do agree baseball is the only thing left, only sport left that actually does it right. The NFL Pro Bowls is ridiculous. The NHL thing, I wrote an article about the John Scott thing before he got the MVP, and I was saying how much of a joke it was, and that even just magnified my point when he got the MVP, that how bad they gave it to him. The players gave it to him.
And it's the changing the tournament up. I'm just done with all that stuff. I don't care if they could hit plates up in the corners of the goalpost. I don't care about the race going around there. NBA 3-pointers, big deal. And you know what? The dunk contest, I'm done on out. I'm not interested in it. It's not fun to watch.
It was good this year. The dunk contest was above
I'm just not
average this
interested.
year.
You know what I like today? I like today at around 2 o'clock. I had myself a nice nap. I made it 26 laps into the Daytona 500 before I fell asleep. How about that?
That's actually
That's
pretty
a
good,
kid.
26 laps.
Oh, good Lord.
26 laps in NASCAR. Who did win the Daytona 500 today?
I do not know, but that's 26 laps more than I watched today. I'll tell you that.
I watched like one lap at the bar at Level 20, who sponsors us, by the way. See that, Colin? I gave you a little extra.
And that's 1033 Paxson Drive, Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. Put that into your GPS. All right, moving right along here. We're going to talk about the Penguins trade deadline coming up. What kind of moves do they need to make to get into the playoffs at this point? Who would have thought it? Well, I thought it at the end of last year that this year we weren't going to make the playoffs, but here we are. We are realistically right there on the border of falling over the cliff possibly. We're going to go to JT. JT, what do you think's going on there?
With the team with this talent, to be teetering back and forth is a shame. Malkin, Crosby. Malkin is hurt right now, and they need to get Malkin back. Rutherford's made some good moves lately, which is shocking because he hasn't really done anything I thought was really good lately. But he got Nicholas Hagelin from Anaheim. He's been playing really well, and he made the trade for Trevor Daley, and he's been playing really well. So the last two trades he made, in fact, he traded Rob Scuderi. He's not even playing in the NHL right now. He got waived by Chicago.
Addition by subtraction.
That's what it was. But they don't have much. They don't have much to really give or to do at the deadline. I mean, we already traded our first-round pick next year. We got an extra second in a trade with the Kessel trade, but we already traded our number one pick 3 years in a row now. We're not getting number one pick next year. You don't want to trade any of your young guys like Daniel Sprong. I don't want to see Pouliot get dealt.
You're mortgaging the future to win now, and the problem is you're not winning now because you don't have the correct team makeup.
This team's not good enough.
I don't think they have the players that are tough playoff players.
I agree. I don't think the Penguins can win the cup this year, but I'd hate to be like the inside joke I've heard a couple of times is Washington's finally going to lead the Eastern Conference, and their first round matchup could be against the Penguins. And we know Pittsburgh and Washington in the playoffs. Pittsburgh usually has their numbers, so that would be. Pittsburgh's on a team anybody wants to play, but I can't see Pittsburgh winning 4 series.
I think they're the team nobody's afraid to play. They don't score in the playoffs. They're not tough. They whine. They're just there's so many problems there.
Sid Crosby's the one that drives me insane in the playoffs. The guy does not show up in the playoffs. He's a great player. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a Crosby basher, but it's so many years now. Even the year we won the cup with him, it was Malkin. It was all Malkin, really. I mean,
he's not a Crosby basher. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. He's over there bashing Crosby. The man is a Crosby basher.
I'm just talking about his playoff. I love him during the regular season. I mean, what he does for the team. He's the one superstar in the league that actually works hard. You see him banging in the corners.
The big problem is, and why he doesn't produce that much in the playoffs, is because the game changes in the playoffs. The whistles go in the pocket, so to speak, and there's a lot more up close in your face, clutching, holding, a little after stuff. It gets under Crosby's skin. He'd never let that go in the past.
Yeah,
so
that Boston series comes to mind when he
does
he
it with
lost
Philadelphia every single time.
Yeah.
I hate the Flyers, like any Penguin fan would, but I love the way the Flyers play. That's the way I wish the Penguins would play. I think they'd be a lot more tougher up front.
And they did a couple years ago, or I should say several years ago. The Gary Robertses and
they won.
Yeah, that's when they won. And even during the Cup years, they always had that antagonizer that like the Matt Cook type player that you didn't want to play against. I mean, Patrick Hornquist has a little bit of that in him, but he's so small, just doesn't. He really can't affect you physically.
My thoughts on them are simply this: if they make it, they'll be one and done. They'll do their one series and they'll be out. And that seems to be the trend of them the last couple of years. I don't see that changing anytime soon.
The only positive I see from this season is I think Sullivan could be a coach going forward, a good coach going forward, where I never felt that way about Mike Johnston.
No.
Rutherford, I don't understand why they keep him on. I mean, honestly, he never really did much in Carolina. In fact, he's the only guy I know that lost in the Brandon Sutter trade twice. How you lose the same trade twice? I mean, we got Brandon Sutter for Jordan Stahl. We won that part of it. Then he traded Brandon Sutter to Vancouver, and he lost that one as well. So he's lost basically twice on the same guy making a trade. And he's always looking to make trades. Trading the mortgage into futures, what's bad.
I agree. And in making trades to make a trade is you're setting yourself up for failure. That's what we're seeing. And now it's going to be a 4 or 5 year failure because they lost draft picks as well.
In my opinion, if they go into the trade deadline, trade either Pouliot, Sprong, any draft picks at all, or Matt Murray, the young goalie who does real well in the AHL, and he looked good when he came up. If they trade any of them players and picks that I named, and it's idiotic because unless they get like a top-notch player back that totally changes the team, which I don't see it happening. We should basically stay pat and keep your picks, keep your players, and just.
And you're right about that because and mine's for a different reason. It's this. You're not going to get past the first round no matter what deal you make because of the team makeup. You have to trade or move too much stuff. They can't do it before the trade deadline because you're paying to get in there. So what I kind of think you ought to do is exactly that: is you go with what you got and move on and start getting things set up for next year. Not worry about this year. It's over. They're not winning anything this year.
I disagree with I think they could win a round. I don't think it's. I wouldn't bet on it, but I can see them winning a round. Just come out and maybe Fleury steals them around, just comes out and gives them 2 really good games where they get ahead 2-0 or something. But other than that, they ain't going to the Cup. I mean, there's no way. They're not built for the Cup.
Speaking of winning a round, if you want to have a winning round, we recommend that you go to Level 20. Order a round for you and your friends.
They got a shot and beer special right now. Shot and beer.
There you go. All right, moving right along, we're going to talk about some future podcasts we have coming up.
Yeah, these are big. This is exciting. This is actually one of the most exciting things since I've took over and made the Sportsvival company happen. And I always wanted to do the podcast with you guys, and we're starting to actually get. We're seeing a lot of stuff coming forward. We got some. We'll start with Steel.
I still remember when we talked podcast, and you know what JT's words were? Dude, what's a podcast?
I never said that.
It's bad. I'm working on a podcast. I have not one Apple product to my name. You need an iPod.
I don't either. I'm a Samsung guy.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have to become Apple guys. We got some. Just go over some of the things we're gonna do.
You talk about your things. You're excited. You're like a kid in a kid in a candy store.
Like a kid in a candy store. There's a possibility we could be doing some interviews with some local wrestling characters. Whenever I say characters, actually talking to the people that wrestle locally. And whenever I say wrestle, I'm talking about professional wrestling, old school wrestling like they used to do back in the day, studio wrestling type stuff. Keystone State Wrestling Alliance, Pro Wrestling Express, just 2 local organizations to check out. Jimmy V's over there rolling his eyes at me like I have no idea.
He wants to tell you it's fake. It's killing him.
Yeah,
right now.
I know. He's just itching to tell me it's not fake. It's work. I don't know. It's predetermined who's going to win, but everything that happens between the bells is real.
It's basically like a ballet. I mean, it's choreographed, right? It's a choreograph of. I love. Don't get me wrong. I grew up with Junkyard Dog. I grew up with Hulk Hogan. I mean, I was at that age. I was old enough. I remember the first WrestleMania, but I mean, and I give these guys credit. Don't get me wrong. If I went in the ring right now, I wouldn't last 5 seconds because the guy would pick me up. I'd break my back and I'd be out for like 6 months. But
Well, it depends on the script. You could be the big winner that day.
Maybe. You never know. Nah, but these guys are amazing athletes, and but I think the thing that the steel cage over there is trying to get through is these guys are actually regular people, regular guys like us going to work, but they're still performing on the weekends. And I mean, I play some 28 and 38 over baseball. We've all played some hockey and some baseball. Steel over there's played some baseball. It's not the same. I mean, these guys are. You tell them. I mean, they're going in the ring. They're putting their bodies on the line.
It's unbelievable some of the things that these guys do. And it's not only unbelievable the moves they do in the ring at their age. I mean, some of these guys are 50 years old. The one guy just celebrated 40 years of being in professional wrestling, was honored by the Pennsylvania State Athletic Association.
And what's the name of this league from the league?
The Keystone State Wrestling Alliance.
That's who we might be getting some. We definitely got Nasty Nick Crane coming in, and I have a feeling he's going to be pulling some of his boys in with him. So
yeah, so that should be really good. We'll talk about a lot of things that he may, if you're thinking about getting into professional wrestling, some things that, we'll answer some of the questions that you may have.
I just want to say, too, since they're all coming in there, I don't believe it's fake at all. I believe it's real.
Exactly.
No, I'm just kidding.
I'm going to ask him to stretch you.
I'm really just busting your stones, having a little fun.
No,
that's all.
Yeah, no, I understand. But
I just want to say that I think that everything that they do is good. Wrestling is an honest, great sport, and none of it's fake. And I'm also speaking into my pencil in case this is.
Thank you. And also, beyond the things that they do in the ring, it's the smiles on the kids' faces. They put on a hell of a show last night in Lawrenceville. They do it every month at the Teamsters Temple. You can check them out at www.kswa.net. That's a free plug.
We will have it linked on our website, too, going forward. I talked to Nasty Nick Crane tonight about it. And the other thing as well is the date we have, it's not written in stone yet, but we're looking at Thursday, March 24th, having the podcast at Level 20. And they actually have a show Saturday, March 26th. So it'll be a good thing for that. We can get the name out there, get some people out there, and who knows, maybe we'll get some local wrestling fans to come out, and maybe we could have you ask some questions as well.
Yeah, they do. They put on a great show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Howard Smith?
Yeah, this is a big one for me. April 7th, it's going to be a Thursday, April 7th at Level 20. We're going to have Howard Smith, who is a local he's basically a local legend when it comes to youth hockey. He started the Hockey in the Hood. He's been doing it, I want to say 30 years. I don't know exact numbers on everything right now, but he's also a military man. He's been in the military his whole life. He's just a great guy. He puts so much time and effort into the Pittsburgh hockey. He gives a chance to kids that don't have a lot of money. They can go there and they get to play a couple of years. And he's had a couple of the I'm not gonna, don't mark my words, but I'm almost positive he's had a couple of the kids that came through the Pittsburgh Ice who've gone on and have a pretty good hockey career with like college and big colleges and maybe even minor leagues. But he'll talk more about that. But I'm real excited about that. So I mean, those are two right there. We also have an NFL draft podcast coming up, and Jimmy Veach is over there laughing because we have three guys coming in. And they do know a lot about. They do have a lot of NFL draft knowledge, and it should be real interesting. We're gonna have an early March one where we're gonna talk about the positions and what's strong and what's weak coming out. And we're gonna do one late March, early April about the. We're gonna do a mock draft where we go around. The four of us will pick a player and go down the actual draft order and see what comes out with us, and then
early May. We're going to have a podcast where we point out everything that those guys got wrong.
Oh, I know you will. Now, we're going to see how close we come with this podcast. It's the first time we're going to do it, but we're going to have, four guys making, each going to make 8 picks, I take. So we'll have 32 picks. We'll do the first round. Then after that, actually, we will talk about what teams won, what teams lost. And who knows, maybe I'll get Ralph and them guys involved. Maybe we'll put a little wager on or see who gets the most picks right for their teams, which maybe we could honor that person in May, which I got the number 1 pick of the draft, so I should I hope I can at least nail that one down to start off with, which I know who I want right now, but we'll see as time goes on. But we do have a lot of stuff coming up. Jimmy's just choking on a hairball from down in my man cave right now.
I was choking because I can't believe you're going to say I got my pick together, but you're not going to say who it is.
It's going to be Tanasil, offensive tackle from Ole Miss. He's going to go to Tennessee, but the asterisk is going to be that I think Tennessee's going to trade that number 1 pick because I think that they're going to get some offers.
Good Lord, will you stop stealing thunder from future podcasts? Let's leave something.
All right, but hey, everybody, thanks for listening. We'll have a podcast next week. We're going to Pirates next week.
Oh, God.
We're going to talk about the Pirates. We're going to see what's going on with them. They should be starting to play games here pretty soon. We'll go over their roster position-wise, if we think they upgraded from last year or downgraded, which I think the downgrades are going to take a lot, which, being honest, I'm a big Pirate fan, but I can't see how losing Walker and losing a couple of your other pitchers is it's going to be an upgrade. But you never know. I mean, you got to give Huntington credit
All right,
for what
we'll
he's
talk
been
about that next week.
All right.
Stealing thunder.
All right,
so that's it. This is our second podcast. We are signing off. Again, thanks for listening, and be sure to check out Level 20, 1033 Paxton Drive, Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. Tell them Sportsvival sent you. Have a great week.